Ambassador Knapper, who is here also all the way from Washington, D.C., and that is the Vietnam Desk Officer, Mr. Steve Manning, who's here as well. You're here to keep the ambassador honest, I know how. Anyways, I wanted to also thank a couple of folks who were able to come together to help us put this event together on such short notice. And of course, it's Mr. Kung Bui on the staff of the Southern And thank you so much, all of you who are leaders of our community in your respective field. And you know what? It was very difficult actually to invite, per John's order, that we have to keep it limited. And that's what we wanted, because we wanted a nice quality time with Ambassador Knapper in which we can interact with him with substantive issues with the time that we have, instead of having hundreds of people or having a press conference, which is too formal. Here in a setting in which we serve fine food and fine wine, and of course, in a social setting like this, it's great to have the ambassador here to share his views, give us the latest updates on U.S.-Vietnam policies and issues, and of course, equally important, for him to hear from you as leaders of our community here in the United States on issues of your concern in your respective fields and issues. So let's the forum open. So Ambassador Knapper is a veteran, by the way. I'm going to do the introduction, if I may. Veteran diplomat. He is a career minister counselor class, foreign officer, which is actually a very high-ranking position in the Foreign Service, by the way. And he has been stationed in Iraq, not sure of Japan, Korea, Vietnam at least twice. And he has served, of course, in the State Department in various portfolio over the years. And it's a great honor to serve as the President's representative to any country, but especially in Vietnam, because it is a very, very unique and interesting country in which our country, the United States here, have a very troubled, complicated, at times, relationship with Vietnam. And professionals, high-quality professionals and experts like Ambassador Knapper, who can make this work, it's not easy. It really is not easy. To upgrade the relationship and to promote the relationship, the bilateral relationships between the two countries in light of what's going on in China, the emerging power of China as well. So all of those issues, hopefully we can talk a little bit about over red and white wine Chardonnay. That will make it more appetizing, more palatable, I hope. So, Ambassador Knapper, the microphone is yours. So please give a warm welcome to Orange County, your Ambassador Marc Knapper.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Van, for that really kind introduction. Thank you, John and Marc, for opening your house to us. Thanks, kids. I know you probably got homework to do tonight, but thanks for spending time with us. It really is, it's an honor to be here with all of you this evening. Believe it or not, I grew up, 25 miles from here in Los Angeles, Playa del Rey, and didn't really spend much time here in Orange County. But it really is great to be here, to be meeting all of you. And really, I do want to hear from all of you issues of interest to you, issues of concern. What is it that's on your mind about the U.S.-Vietnam relationship? We'd love to hear about your accomplishments here in Southern California. And if you do have any concerns, anything you want to raise, then please talk to Steve Manning over there. He's our guy. But really, I want to thank Steve as well, because he helped put together this great program. For us here in Southern California, today Orange County, tomorrow we're going to be doing some things up in LA County. But really thank you, Steve, and our team in the State Department for helping to arrange all this again. Thank all of you for coming out. I know it was on short notice, but it really is very, very meaningful. As your representative, as the representative of all of you and of the American people in Vietnam, it's very important for me to understand what your aspirations are for the U.S.-Vietnam relationship. What are your concerns? What are the things you think the United States could do better? What are the things that really worry you about this relationship, worry you about the region? And there are challenges for sure, not just in our relationship with Vietnam, but with the overall region. I'll just speak a little bit, about the President's visit, the recent upgrade, but I do want to leave the bulk of the time to converse with all of you to hear, again, what's on your mind. But as Don just said, this recent visit by the President, this recent double upgrade in our two countries' ties was unprecedented. It was a truly remarkable achievement, one for which I take no credit. The credit for this upgrade really belongs to the thousands of individuals, Americans and Vietnamese, who have worked very, very hard over the last few years, decades, to bring our relationship to where it is today. And the reason we do this is because this relationship matters. This matters to the future prosperity of the United States. This matters to the future security of the United States. If you look at the joint statement that President Biden released after the visit, you can see just how consequential the ties between our two countries are. This is a relationship that spans everything from trade and investment to defense, military cooperation, law enforcement cooperation, education, health, science, technology, energy, climate change, cultural exchanges, you name it. Right now, the United States and Vietnam are doing it together. Significantly, the joint statement between our two countries also refers to our efforts in the area of human rights and religious freedom. As Americans, these issues are of deep importance to us. It's something that the embassy, our team at the embassy in Hanoi and the Consul General in Saigon, we raise often and strongly. It's something that when President Biden was in Hanoi and had his meetings with the leadership of Vietnam, he raised in all of these meetings, because it's a true expression of, again, our values as Americans. And we will not cease raising these issues, but we'll continue to do it in a way that's very frank, that's very straightforward, but also respectful. Because, among the tenets, the principles of our relationship with Vietnam include respect for each other's independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity. And as part of this, we have respectful but still, again, very straightforward conversations about concerns that we have in the areas of human rights, religious freedom, and will continue to do so. But at the same time, recognizing we will not see eye to eye on everything, we also recognize that we have many shared interests. Among these shared interests, of course, are an interest in a free and open Indo-Pacific, a free and open South China Sea. A South China Sea that is free from coercion, a South China Sea in which the countries there can make decisions based on their own national interests, decisions that are in line with international law, that respect independence and sovereignty of all those in the area. And so this is something that we in Vietnam see eye to eye on. And as part of our efforts to ensure that Vietnam can maintain its capabilities, strengthen its capabilities to defend its interests, we have very close cooperation between the U.S. Coast Guard and Vietnam's Coast Guard, supplying Vietnam with ships, large Coast Guard cutters, smaller patrol vessels, things like training and repair facilities to ensure that Vietnam has the ability it needs to defend its interests in the South China Sea, interests that are related to maritime issues, natural resources in the ocean, you name it. We work very closely with Vietnam on Mekong River related issues in terms of the relationship with Laos and Cambodia. More and more, as we promote U.S. business in Vietnam and ensuring that U.S. businesses are able to operate on a level playing field. We're also looking to encourage Vietnamese investment in the United States. You know, we see companies big and small looking to invest in America, whether it's VinFast and their $4 billion investment in North Carolina, whether it's franchises like King Coffee, importing and investing here in Southern California. Other companies, for example, there's a smaller group called Tin Time Group, investing in a tire factory in South Carolina, and on and on. And so this kind of Vietnamese investment in the U.S. Creates jobs, it creates business and education connections, it creates political connections. And so this is something that we want to encourage, just as we want to encourage more young people from both of our countries to go back and forth. Right now, there are about 30,000 Vietnamese students in the United States, as all of you know. This makes Vietnam the number 5 source country of foreign students in the U.S., behind India, South Korea, China, the UK, and then Vietnam. And by any measure, whether it's the fact that Vietnam is in the top 5 makes it a real outlier. And I think it's a reflection really of the faith that families in Vietnam have in the American education system, in staking their kids' future on this relationship between the United States and Vietnam. If you flip it, the United States is the number 1 country of choice of Vietnamese families to send their kids. And if you actually dig down into the numbers, certainly 30,000 Vietnamese students are here, but if you actually look at Vietnamese students who participate in online courses or 2-week exchange programs, summer camp, whatever, the number actually jumps to 300,000. 300,000 young Vietnamese every year somehow are touched by the American education system. And as I think all of us know, this kind of experience that young people have will change their perspective, will change their lives, and certainly I think can help set U.S.-Vietnam relations on an even stronger course into the future by building greater understanding, greater trust in each other. By the same token, I'd love to see more young Americans go to Vietnam. We do have a number of young Americans, including many Vietnamese Americans, who participate in everything from the Fulbright program in Vietnam, Peace Corps, which now we're in the 2nd year, Peace Corps with a handful of Vietnamese American volunteers. We've got, of course, Fulbright University in Vietnam, located in Saigon. And so there are ways to get young Americans to Vietnam, to teach English, to share our culture, but we can do better. And so one of my goals is to try and encourage young Americans to go to Vietnam. And I think with this new upgrade in our 2 countries' relationship, I think with this new partnership, the comprehensive strategic partnership, now is the chance for us to take steps to deepen even further our 2 countries' ties, build understanding through this partnership, find new ways to address concerns that we may have, whether it's human rights or religious freedom, but ultimately strengthen these 2 countries' relationship, the relationship between our country, the United States, and Vietnam, because ultimately the future of the U.S.-Vietnam relationship is going to shape American prosperity, American security in this critical part of the world, the Indo-Pacific. And if we can get our relationship with Vietnam right, we can get our relationship with the entire region right, I think, because this country is just so consequential to our country's future prosperity, security, stability. And this is where I want to hear from all of you. What are we doing right? What can we do better with Vietnam? What are the issues that are on your mind? And what are the things that you would like to see the United States do going forward in our relationship with Vietnam? So I'm going to stop there. I just want to say thank you again, John. Thank you for welcoming all of us into your home. Thank all of you for what you do every day on behalf of the U.S.-Vietnam relationship. There's just such opportunity now, I think, not just as Americans, particularly as Vietnamese Americans, to shape this relationship and to ensure that it goes forward so that the future generation, kids like John's kids, John and Marc's kids can have a future in which the U.S.-Vietnam relationship is on solid footing and contributing to the prosperity and the security of our country, the United States of America. Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. Questions, comments? Please. Remember, this is your chance to teach me what's going on and what can I take back with me to Vietnam.
Yeah, so I believe that you have all the events today, and a lot of people asking you about issue of human rights in Vietnam, and I really appreciate your update regarding the relationship between two countries. We're all aware that there's a lot of opportunity out there to improve the relationship. However, I think that most Vietnamese who live outside Vietnam have the same concerns about issue of human rights and religious freedom. And almost 5 decades, the Vietnamese communists is still violate human rights, and they still imprison intellectual, writer, young student who dare to speak up against the communist government or to speak for freedom and democracy. And I happened to read the report last year on the State Department website regarding issue of human rights in Vietnam, and there's still a lot of problem. There's still a lot of issues. So how can we improve that situation, or how can we put more pressure on the communist government so they understand that if they want to keep our relationship, they need to have the answer for the Vietnamese who live outside Vietnam.
No, thank you. I mean, this is, can you hear me without the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Probably.
Microphone is good. Microphone.
No, I mean, thanks for raising that, and you're right. I mean, this is something, my various conversations today, I've heard a lot about, concerns about the situation in Vietnam. And this is something that the Biden-Harris administration, human rights, not just in Vietnam, but around the world, this is a policy priority that the State Department has been tasked to advance under the leadership of Secretary Blinken and others. And it's no different in the case of Vietnam. When I had my confirmation hearing, I talked about the importance of addressing human rights and religious freedom, and that, as I said at the time, our relationship will not reach its full potential unless these issues are addressed. And this remains true today. This is why when President Biden was there, he raised our concerns in his meetings. Secretary Blinken did the same. Other leaders, when they visited, have done so. And so this is not just paying lip service. This is something that we take very seriously. And just this week, in fact, November 1st and 2nd, so what is that, Wednesday and Thursday, I guess? We have the next round of our human rights dialogue with Vietnam in Washington, D.C., during which we will raise, of course, our concerns. And frankly speaking, the Vietnamese raise with us their concerns about human rights in the United States. And so this is a dialogue in which we give and take very frankly, but also respectfully, recognizing that, yeah, we don't see eye to eye on everything. But at least we can have a conversation, one we hope is results-oriented, will have concrete, positive impact, and we'll continue to do so, because this is something that's important to us as Americans. This is something that we need to remain true to our values, and we will continue to actualize and implement these important values to us in a way, again, that we're very clear about our concerns and hopefully see positive progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have a gift that before you I'll take up another question. I also have a gift for you. That's a California flag and California Constitution.
Thank you. So does everybody who asks a question have to give me a gift? Is that? Thank you very much. Thank you. No, thank you so much. That's very generous. Thank you.
Master?
Yes, please. Tyler, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Sorry for a second. Whoever stands up, can you please introduce yourself so the ambassador knows who you are? Is that okay?
Yes. Good evening, Ambassador. My name is Tyler Diep, and I used to be a politician in this community. Now I'm a retired citizen.
Recovering politician.
Got it. I just have just two questions. One is just to get a confirmation from you, and the other is just to have you elaborate on what does it mean to be elevated from U.S. Comprehensive Partnership to U.S. Comprehensive Strategic Partnership for the layperson around here that couldn't understand the difference. Like what if you can give us a couple tangible differences as to what it means in terms of education, trade, security. The second question is that there is a perception out there that because of ongoing security threat, that the United States now is kind of looking at the other direction in terms of human rights to prioritize national security, to prioritize the Indo-Pacific. And not just the Indo-Pacific, but also with certain countries like, let's say, Saudi Arabia. Because our leaders, every time we meet with the representative from the kingdom, a representative from Vietnam, we always, quote unquote, raise the issue of human rights. But the result is that we always see an enhancement of bilateral relationship. So a perception out there is that it's more lip service, and right now, controlling China, having peace and security in the Middle East is more important than human rights. Is that a valid perception?
Okay, well, thanks. Just on the first question about what does exactly this mean, this upgrade to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Sort of within Vietnam's constellation of foreign relations, it's got three different levels of partnership, right? The lowest level, the lowest rung, being comprehensive, and then strategic, and then comprehensive strategic. For 10 years, the United States was at the sort of tier one, right? Comprehensive partnership. And for some time, we, in the US government, the US Embassy, had been publicly advocating for an upgrade from this comprehensive level to strategic level, basically making the point that it's high time for this kind of upgrade. It's a reflection of where our two countries already are in terms of how we operate together, and then we thought would help to send a strong message about the U.S.-Vietnam relationship and sort of our aspirations where we hope to go. Ultimately, though, in something that was completely unprecedented, and I think reflecting some very bold diplomacy on the part of the United States, we actually got this double upgrade, right? So we jumped from the lowest level comprehensive to the highest level comprehensive strategic. What does that mean? I think, again, first of all, it's a reflection of the work that our two countries are already doing, whether it's trade investment, whether it's defense and security, whether it's education, health cooperation, you name it. The work the US and Vietnam do together outstrips virtually anything any other country right now is doing with Vietnam. So this upgrade, I think, is a reflection of the reality that this relationship is very meaningful, very consequential, not just to Washington, but to Hanoi as well. In addition, though, to being a reflection of where we already are, in addition to sort of reflecting the reality, is it's also very aspirational. We hope with this upgrade, we can open doors, we can open further doors that are already open or we can unlock doors that have up until now been closed. And this is where I think the question about human rights, religious freedom comes in, because we believe that with this upgraded relationship, with this increased strategic trust between our two countries, with new and different avenues of dialogue, we hope to be able to deepen even more the conversation we have with Vietnam on human rights and religious freedom. Because ultimately, again, and this is about staying true to our country's values, that human security, security of the United States, is inextricably tied to progress on human rights around the world. And so this is something that we'll continue to push. I mean, I can't speak about Saudi Arabia, I can speak about Vietnam, but this is a priority of this current administration, the Biden-Harris administration. It's something we'll continue to pursue, and we hope with this upgrade, it will give us more avenues, more ways to address these issues, again, in a way that's constructive, respectful, frank, and ultimately we hope results-oriented. So, but we're in new territory. I mean, this is, again, not something, we're in a brand new place in our relationship with Vietnam. We're going to continue to look for ways how things are different, how things haven't changed, how things are better. And we're counting on you, folks like you who do deal with Vietnam, who do business with Vietnam every day. If you see changes, if you see improvements, let us know. If you see backsliding, let us know. If you see nothing's changed, let us know. This is something that's really important for us to hear from you, our citizens, in your dealings with Vietnam, if things really have changed or if it's just business as usual. Doctor.
My name is Daniel Chuang. I was one of the first to come back to Vietnam during the embargo. I was confronted with the same issue my friend here mentioned. But I don't believe by someone critical will get anywhere. And I would have a recommendation if you can even modify the student visa, because I prefer to see their children argue about human rights with the father than I have to argue. Because if you train their children to look at a different way, they can argue with their parents for a year.
So student visas. Yeah.
So by improving the student visa to allow more, it will end up changing the society faster. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I think for sure we count education cooperation as among the most significant areas of cooperation we have with Vietnam now and in the future. You know, the Fulbright program between the U.S. and Vietnam is older than normalization. We know, we had Fulbright 2 years before we normalized relations. So we just celebrated the 30th anniversary of Fulbright. Of course, we've normalized now for 28 years. But I absolutely agree with you. I see that education is key to promoting understanding. People-to-people ties we build between our two countries are the foundation upon which everything we do is built. Whether it's trade, investment, whether it's, again, cooperation in education, science, technology, you name it. We need to build stronger bridges, people-to-people ties, and people in this room are key to that. The Vietnamese American community here in Orange County, throughout the United States, is key to ensuring that our two peoples can understand each other. The bridges we build every day are what will drive this relationship into the future, build understanding, tear down mistrust, and ultimately make this a stronger relationship for the benefit of the American people and the Vietnamese people as well.
To my Vietnamese friend, the term I use is constructive opposition. You teach them to find with their parent for you. Thank you.
I have a question, Ambassador. My name is Tui Huang. I'm looking for Leadership on TV. Second to that question from Tyler, Mr. President Biden said that the partnership with Vietnam is not to contain China. But in the meantime, the Secretary of Commerce, she said that the U.S. has many tools to contain China. Can you elaborate a little bit about?
Yeah, I mean, there's intrinsic value in the U.S. relationship with Vietnam that goes beyond what this relationship means in regards to any other country. You know, we don't see our relationship with Vietnam as being some tool in our tool chest to contain China, to undermine Chinese ambitions in the region, to fight a new Cold War. Our relationship with Vietnam is about the U.S. and Vietnam working together to advance our shared goals. Prosperity for each other's peoples, security, stability for each other's peoples. It's not about, you know, creating circumstances for a new Cold War against the PRC. You know, we don't look at Vietnam that way, just as Vietnam doesn't look at us that way. They see the value, we see the value in each other's countries, we see the value in trade and investment with each other, we see the value in promoting understanding, promoting education, promoting health cooperation. For example, during COVID-19, when we needed it, Vietnam provided the U.S. with masks, PPE, other essential items. And when we could help, we provided back Vietnam with 40 million doses of vaccine. So we effectively vaccinated 25% of Vietnam. This is significant. And we don't do it because of China. We do it because there's value in helping each other. There's value in building this relationship for our two countries, not in trying to take on some other country.
One more. One of the things that we talk about is the rule of law from the CPS. But I heard so many horror stories from the Vietnamese American try to invest back to Vietnam. They go back, and because of corruption, how can we fight corruption? How the rule of law apply to the Vietnamese government?
So, you know, there are a couple of ways we get at this. One is we work with Vietnamese legal authorities on training of their sort of prosecutorial services, training of their judges, try and explain sort of how we do things in the United States. USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, of course, has programs to promote good governance within business, to promote business law, other areas, again, to get at this issue of ensuring that American companies and others have a level playing field. But we also, under that, we're going to meet, I think in December, to address these very issues, concerns related to the investment climate in Vietnam, some of the challenges faced by American businesses, just as the Vietnamese side, I'm sure, is going to raise concerns about doing business in the United States. Of course, we've got IPEF, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which again will try to sort of ensure that the 14 countries participating in IPEF, including the US, including Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, that we reach agreement on issues as fundamental to doing business together as supply chain resilience, green infrastructure, labor issues, intellectual property rights. Again, hopefully through this, being able to address some of these concerns that you raised about doing business, about investment in each other's countries.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Any question available to be asked? Okay.
My name is Thanh Vân. I am the bishop of the Evangelical Lutheran Community Church in the America and Vietnam. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for your time with us tonight, because we know how I'm busy.
Thank you, Bishop.
So tonight I have one question for you. Can you tell us the truth? Right now in Vietnam, they have a relationship with freedom or not?
I'm sorry?
Right now, can you tell us the truth?
The truth.
Yes. Then in Vietnam right now, they have a relationship, freedom or not?
Religious freedom.
Yeah.
So, in our conversations with the Vietnamese government, and I met the other day with the Vice Minister of Internal Affairs, and we had a very frank conversation. Probably not my place to talk about the contents of this conversation, but suffice to say, it was very open and very honest about Vietnam's own efforts to promote religious freedom. They sent a delegation here recently with representatives from 6 major religions in Vietnam, from Roman Catholics to Protestants, the Buddhists, Cao Dai, Hua Hao, and Muslims. And they traveled around the United States. They went to Washington. I think they came out here, maybe Northern California, but with the goal of promoting religious freedom within Vietnam. This is something that the United States, of course, the U.S. government pays very close attention. We have our annual report on religious freedom. As many of you know, Vietnam is on, it's called the Special Watch List because of some concerns raised about the situation there. But we'll remain devoted to promoting this issue, but also to having dialogue with the government of Vietnam to make sure that our concerns are understood and that we can help Vietnam to try and address some of the issues it faces in terms of religious freedom issues.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other easy questions? Comments? The ambassador would be happy to take any comments or feedback from you. Not only questions.
in the house, any issues?
Any issues?
Healthcare, yeah, why not?
Well, I'm James Tran, you met me earlier.
Yes.
I'm cardiologist down here. I went to the field of medicine mostly because I saw a lot of suffering in Vietnam before I left. I was like 10. So it's still, really here. But the common thread I get from people visiting Vietnam is that the government is very rich and they don't do much for the citizens over there. And a lot of us have to go back there and help out in the rural areas. And Dr. Mike has done a lot for those people in Vietnam. So I'm part of her actually, not that aware. But I wonder if we should raise that question to the government that they've prospered quite a bit in their officers and in the parties, all super rich. So maybe they should be more generous to their citizens. I'm saying this because I'm not a politician, so I don't care about being unpopular. So I got to be frank. So if you can raise a question to the government, that would be nice.
Okay. No, I think that's a valid point you make. And certainly, we can certainly raise that when we see our Vietnamese counterparts.
Good evening, my name is Jace Jansen. I'm with Tayho in San Jose City. I mainly do a lot with food import and food commodity from Vietnam. As you know, Vietnam is one of the main supplier for many of the ingredients such as rice or other fish sauce as commodity. All the product come here to the United States. I don't know if this is right or not, but only about 3 to 5% of the food commodity get inspected by FDA. So all the manufacturers in Vietnam that manufacture food, they have to go through what they call the FDA registration facilities. So my question is, after they register as a FDA food manufacturing facility in Vietnam, does the FDA in Vietnam actually go to the facility to actually inspect all these manufacturing practices? Do they follow all the protocol that we have to go through, like SOP, HACCP? My facility is USDA, so my USA inspector is there every day. But does all the manufacturing facility in Vietnam have a regular inspection at least once a year or something, or to make sure they have in compliance as we do in the United States?
So as far as I know, yes. It's under either USDA representatives or representatives from the Animal Plant and Health Inspection Service, APHIS, regularly make the rounds of facilities that are responsible for exporting food products to the United States. I couldn't, off the top of my head, tell you what the schedule is, how often a certain site is visited, but absolutely, any facility that touches any food that's coming into the United States, of course, is held to a very high standard, which is inspected by either folks in country or folks coming from the U.S. on a regular basis.
Yeah, because the FDA in the United States actually inspect about 3% of all the cargo that get here. So if it's 100%, there's only about 3 containers get actually inspected by FDA before they're allowed to enter the United States.
Yeah, and on the outbound side, I can't give you an exact figure. I could probably, we can find that out and let you know. But it is done with the express purpose of ensuring, food safety of things that are being exported into the United States market.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, I am Marc, and I'm a pediatrician, and I have been practicing here in Orange County for almost 30 years. I think I want to just tell you how we have really some of the most prominent physicians in Orange County, Vietnamese American physicians here. Dr. Daniel Trong didn't identify himself with his profession, but he is one of the most prominent neurologists in the world. And of course, Dr. James Tran. So from the healthcare perspective, I just want to ask you how the Vietnamese government, when they talked about COVID-19, the pandemic, how we were to believe the data that they were given. Because those of us who were following it, initially Vietnam was very effective in controlling the pandemic. And then they had a very bad outcome as the pandemic continued. So from an American standpoint, and as part of the embassy there, were you at all involved in making sure that the data that was coming out of Vietnam was accurate and actually represented the true condition in Vietnam, or was that more of a governmental narrative?
So, one of the, can I say, sort of silver linings of the AIDS epidemic in Vietnam, beginning about 2004, 2005, was U.S. assistance to Vietnam under PEPFAR, President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. And under this program, Vietnam was the only country outside of Africa to be a PEPFAR recipient country. One of the benefits of this was, over the last 20 years, an intensely close and cooperative relationship between U.S. and Vietnamese health authorities. U.S. Centers for Disease Control, U.S. Agency for International Development, essentially worked hand in hand with Vietnamese counterparts over 20 years to stop the spread of HIV. And as part of this health cooperation, our two countries developed the muscle memory to address other serious diseases, whether it's malaria, antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis, and then COVID-19.
Dengue fever is pretty bad.
Dengue fever is bad. Unfortunately, no vaccine for that one. But the work we do in sharing data, the work we do in working with Vietnam, with their health authorities, I think over the last 25 years has given us confidence and trust in each other, so that when COVID-19 hit, yes, you're right. Initially, Vietnam did a pretty decent job of controlling it. But then Delta hit. And Delta is what really sort of knocked Vietnam kind of off of its fairly successful response. And so that's when we saw the numbers spike, that's when we saw the sort of lockdowns, and that's around the time when we started providing vaccines to Vietnam. And Vietnam proved very effective in distributing the vaccines, getting shots in arms in a way that we didn't have confidence that other countries could do. And this allowed Vietnam to open up relatively quickly after this Delta wave swept through. And so, long answer, but yes, I think we were just given the really close relationship our health authorities enjoy with each other. We were confident in the data that we were seeing. Vietnam was sequencing DNA of COVID infections within patients to ensure that there weren't new strains that were developing. And so, again, health, I wish we didn't have to have these experiences dealing with health crises. But I mean, the one silver lining again has been just an incredibly close, trusting, productive relationship between the health authorities, public health authorities in each of our countries.
So given the great trust and understanding and collaboration, I would like to go back to what Dr. James was saying, that could you affect more changes to healthcare for the rest of the population, right? I mean, because I think there's still a very tremendous need for healthcare reforms,
Yeah.
healthcare changes in Vietnam. And so given that relationship, can the U.S. affect more positive outcomes?
Absolutely. And in fact, we're doing that.
Wow.
You know, Vietnam is trying to stand up its own version of CDC. And so we are working, again, hand in glove with them on sort of the legal framework, the regulatory framework, the sort of the different sort of needs to how do you create a CDC. So we're working with them on that. Childhood vaccinations, another area that we're working very closely. But yeah, you mentioned dengue fever outbreak. We're sharing data on that. Diphtheria, we're sharing data on that. And so a lot going on in the health space in which we are trying to, as you said, affect positive change. And it's not us imposing our will on Vietnam. This is cooperative, this is collaborative, and this is a situation in which we're working together for a shared common good. Because as we all discovered during COVID, diseases don't stop at the border, right? And I think both our countries realize that, you know, you stop a disease in its tracks in one place, you're stopping it for the rest of the world as well. Sure.
The hour is getting late, so maybe just one more comment or one last question from our group.
I can be here all week if you want.
I have real quick. Okay, how does the two wars, the Ukraine war and the Middle East war, affect the progress of the partnership between the two? Opinion between the Vietnamese and the Russian is pretty close.
So I would give like sort of the pithy answer is to say not at all. I think the U.S. is, we have enough resources that we can afford to deal with the situation in Ukraine, the situation in the Middle East without being distracted by what's happening, and then allow us to continue to focus very much on our interests in the Indo-Pacific, whether it's strengthening our partnership with allies like Japan, South Korea, Australia, whether it's strengthening partnership with emerging friends and counterparts like Vietnam, like India, whether it's dealing with the challenge of China. Our country has the resources necessary to do all that. That said though, I mean, you're right, you know, Vietnam and Russia have had a traditional relationship dating back to the days of the Soviet Union.
Right.
So this is something, you know, we've had conversations with them about the relationship with Russia, particularly their reliance on Russian defense equipment. And it's an ongoing story, and one that I think could yield even closer defense relations between the U.S. and Vietnam in the days ahead.
I'm making
Just one last one.
Yeah, okay. All right, go ahead.
I'm Nicola Conklin. I am the president of the League Media. My question is quick. Okay. The issue of Taiwan, how they going to affect the relationship between the United States and Vietnam, and what the United States look at Vietnam to play the role in the future if the issue become an incident in the future.
Well, one of the first things they teach you in diplomacy school is not to engage in like hypothetical questions. I'm going to sort of dodge that one a little bit, but I will say that like the United States, Vietnam has very significant interests with Taiwan in terms of investment from Taiwanese companies in Vietnam, trade with Vietnam, and between Vietnam and Taiwan is significant. I think it's safe to say that nobody in the region wants to see conflict, that kind of conflict, because it would impact all of us.
Well, all right, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much.